Welcome to the deep dive. We take a whole stack of sources, sometimes complex ones, and really distill them down into the essential knowledge you need.
That's the goal, to cut through the noise.
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep into something that's, well, basically as old as human civilization. Alcohol.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. Every single recorded civilization, even ones that had zero contact with each other.
Right. They all independently figured out how to make their own alcoholic drinks. It's just
Mhm.
woven into our history.
Absolutely.
So our mission here for you, the listener, is really to, cut through all the confusion and help you understand what actually happens when you drink alcohol.
And look, this isn't about judging anyone's choices, not at all.
No, it's about knowledge,
Yeah.
purely empowering you with the facts. We want to uncover how alcohol really works in your body, maybe some of those less obvious consequences.
Things people don't always connect to drinking.
Exactly. And then, importantly, some practical science-backed ways to maybe mitigate the damage or just navigate your choices better.
Yeah, and the source material we've pulled together for this, it's pretty comprehensive. We're looking at everything from like the cellular level stuff,
Way down in the weeds.
right, down to the mechanics, but also up to, actionable tips you could literally use tonight. We're trying to get past the common myths here.
Okay, so let's jump right in. How does alcohol actually, get into your system and start doing its thing?
Well, it's surprisingly fast. The alcohol itself, ethanol, it takes a kind of shortcut.
Doesn't need the usual digestion.
I don't like proteins or fats, no. About 20%, roughly a fifth, gets absorbed super quickly, directly through your stomach lining.
Oh, okay. Straight into the bloodstream.
Pretty much, yeah, straight into the bloodstream. The other 80% or so gets absorbed a bit further down in your small intestine.
Huh. So that stomach absorption, that 20%,
Hmm.
that has some real practical implications, doesn't it?
It really does. And this is where it gets quite interesting. Think about it. Only 20% in the stomach, right?
Yep.
And your stomach has this valve, the pylorus valve, that closes when you're digesting food.
Ah, okay. I see where you're going.
So if you eat something that digests slowly, like a meal rich in protein, either before you drink or with your drink.
It keeps the alcohol in the stomach longer.
Exactly. It keeps more of that alcohol trapped in the stomach for a while. This gives your liver a head start on processing that initial 20% before the rest floods your system from the small intestine.
So it can actually reduce the overall peak, the immediate hit.
Yeah, potentially by around that 20% mark, it just smooths things out a bit by slowing the main absorption phase.
And that rapid stomach absorption, it also means, well, you literally can't drive even a few minutes after a drink, right? It's hitting your system almost instantly.
Absolutely. That initial wave hits the bloodstream very, very quickly.
Okay, so ethanol is in the blood. What happens next? The body has to deal with it.
Right, your body immediately flags it as something to neutralize. An enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase gets to work converting the ethanol into something called acetaldehyde.
Acetaldehyde. Okay, sounds technical. Is it bad?
Oh, yeah. This stuff is the real villain behind most of those awful hangover symptoms. And get this, it's estimated to be about 30 times more damaging to many body tissues than the ethanol itself.
30 times. Wow. Okay, that's genuinely shocking. How does the body even defend itself against that?
Thankfully, we do have a defense system. There's another enzyme called acetaldehyde dehydrogenase,
Right.
and it works together with a really crucial antioxidant called glutathione.
I've heard of glutathione.
Master.
Antioxidant, right.
That's the one. They work together to convert that nasty acetaldehyde into less harmful stuff, eventually into acetate.
Acetate.
Yeah, which your body can actually use for energy, believe it or not. This whole cleanup operation mostly happens in your liver.
Okay, so the liver's doing the heavy lifting. How quickly can it actually clear the alcohol? Is there a set speed?
It's surprisingly fixed, actually. The rate is pretty constant for most people. As a general rule of thumb, your liver can process and eliminate the alcohol from one standard drink.
Which is about 14 grams of alcohol.
Exactly, about 14 grams. It takes roughly 60 to 90 minutes, so say an hour to an hour and a half per standard drink.
I assume that varies a bit person to person.
Oh, definitely. Things like your liver health, how much glutathione you have stored up, your sex, even just the physical size of your liver, they all play a role.
So, thinking practically then, if someone's main goal for, say, an evening out isn't necessarily optimizing for long-term health, but just managing the immediate effects,
Right, if longevity or oxidative stress isn't the top concern in that moment.
does pacing help? Like sticking to that one drink every hour and a half?
Theoretically, yes. Pacing your drinks to roughly match that elimination rate, say one standard drink every 90 minutes, could help you maintain a more steady blood alcohol level.
Avoiding those big spikes and crashes.
Exactly. It might help you enjoy yourself without hitting those really high peaks and suffering the more severe immediate consequences.
But you mentioned oxidative stress. There's still a hidden cost to all this processing, even if you pace perfectly.
Absolutely. That's the kicker. Every single step in breaking down alcohol, from ethanol to acetaldehyde to acetate, generates harmful stuff called reactive oxygen species, or ROS.
Free radicals, basically.
Essentially, yes. And this creates significant oxidative stress, which chews through your body's vital glutathione reserves.
So even when your body is doing its job correctly, it's using up resources.
Precisely. And that depletion of glutathione over time can negatively impact your long-term health, your longevity, and even just your day-to-day energy levels. It's a constant battle happening inside.
Okay, so beyond the buzz and the hangover, which we'll get back to, let's talk about some of these deeper, maybe unseen tolls alcohol takes, like body fat. How does alcohol fit into that picture?
Right. Well, first off, alcohol itself has calories, about 7 per gram, but they're totally empty nutritionally.
Low value, just energy.
Exactly. And your body sees alcohol as a toxin it needs to deal with immediately. It prioritizes metabolizing the alcohol over everything else.
So what does that mean for the food you eat with the alcohol?
It means any extra energy from that food, especially if it's sugary drinks or carb-heavy snacks you have alongside,
Yeah.
is much more likely to get shuttled straight into storage as fat. Both the fat under your skin, subcutaneous fat, and also the more dangerous visceral fat.
The fat around the organ.
Exactly. That's the stuff that really impacts organ function long term.
Is there anything you can do about that specific effect besides just not drinking?
Well, obviously, avoiding the empty calories from alcohol itself is the most direct way. But strategically, things like intermittent fasting can help.
How so?
By creating periods where your body isn't dealing with incoming food energy, you give it more opportunity to burn stored fat. And adding aerobic exercise during those fasting windows can boost your metabolism and improve fat utilization even more.
Okay, interesting. Now, beyond fat storage, you mentioned earlier it impacts longevity pathways. Talk a bit more about how alcohol sort of accelerates aging.
Yeah, it's quite multifaceted. We know it dehydrates you, that's
Right.
obvious, but it also drains your levels of NAD plus AI, which is absolutely critical for cellular energy, for mitochondrial function, basically for keeping your cells young and efficient.
Okay.
And as we said, it depletes glutathione, your main protector against oxidative stress and free radical damage.
So more damage accumulating.
Right. Plus, it can raise LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, which isn't great for your heart health. So it's hitting you from multiple angles, essentially speeding up your biological clock.
But what about those blue zones? You know, the places where people live incredibly long lives. Some of them drink alcohol regularly, right? Little bits daily.
That's a great point, and it brings up this concept called hormesis.
Hormesis.
Yeah, the idea that a small amount of a stressor can actually make the body stronger, trigger adaptive responses, like how exercise stresses your muscles to make them grow.
Ah, okay. So a tiny bit might be different
From the typical pattern many people fall into, which might be no alcohol during the week and then, heavier drinking on the weekend, very small, consistent amounts might stress the system in a way that potentially builds resilience, whereas binge drinking just overwhelms it. It's complex.
Definitely food for thought. Okay, another big area. Hormones. Alcohol seems to throw them into chaos.
It really can. It disrupts major players like insulin, testosterone, growth hormone, and cortisol.
Cortisol, the stress hormone. That's ironic because so many people drink to relax, right?
Yeah.
To lower stress.
Exactly. It feels relaxing initially, and culturally, that's how it's often used. But the science shows chronic alcohol use actually increases your long-term cortisol levels. It makes your baseline stress response higher.
Right, backfires long term.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that chronic elevation promotes muscle loss and fat gain, kind of the opposite of what most people want.
What about insulin and blood sugar? How does alcohol mess with that?
It causes a pretty sharp spike in blood sugar initially. Your body then overreacts with a big insulin surge to bring it down.
Which can lead to a crash.
Yes, it can lead to hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. That's why you might feel shaky, faint, or suddenly starving after drinking.
The late night food cravings.
Could be related. And over time, this impairs your body's ability to manage blood sugar effectively, which again pushes towards fat storage and makes it harder to burn fat.
And you mentioned sex hormones earlier. This sounds particularly interesting. Alcohol boosting estrogen and lowering testosterone, especially certain types.
Yeah, this is where those congeners come back in.
Right, the other compounds besides ethanol.
Exactly. They're produced during fermentation and are more common in darker drinks, think whiskey, brandy, even some beers and red wines. These congeners seem to exacerbate the hormonal effects.
So darker liquors might be a double whammy, the ethanol effect, plus these congeners messing with hormones.
That's a good way to put it. You get the alcohol's impact and then these extra compounds contributing to feminizing estrogen effects and suppressing testosterone. Beer also has compounds from hops that can be estrogenic.
Wow. Okay, let's shift to the brain. You said alcohol damages the brain. That sounds pretty direct.
It is, unfortunately. It directly messes with key neurotransmitters, the brain's chemical messengers. Think adrenaline,
The
noradrenaline.
alertness chemicals.
Right, but also GABA, which is inhibitory. Alcohol boosts GABA initially, which causes that relaxation, that sleepiness.
Why people use it as a nightcap.
Exactly. But that reliance can lead to dependence just to feel normal or get to sleep.
Right.
It also inhibits glutamate, which is the main excitatory neurotransmitter.
So it's dampening brain activity overall.
Initially, yes. And while it might give you a temporary serotonin boost, making you feel good,
Yeah.
over time, it can actually desensitize your dopamine receptors. Dopamine is about reward and motivation.
Meaning you need more stimulation to feel rewarded.
Potentially, yes. It can lead towards what's called an emotivational syndrome, where things just don't seem as exciting or worthwhile.
And you mentioned people waking up midnight after drinking.
Yeah.
What causes that rebound effect?
Right, so you get that initial GABA surge that helps you fall asleep, but then later in the night, your brain tries to compensate, and you get a rebound effect with too much glutamate, the excitatory signal.
The waking you up.
Exactly. Leading to fragmented sleep, less REM, less deep sleep. But it's not just neurotransmitters. The free radicals generated by alcohol metabolism directly damage brain cells, neurons themselves.
Accelerating things like dementia risk.
The processes are linked, yes. Oxidative damage is a key factor in neurodegeneration. Plus, alcohol reduces blood flow and oxygen to the brain, not just while you're drinking, but for hours, even days afterward.
Impairing memory, thinking speed,
Cognitive performance across the board, yeah.
which leads us straight into sleep sabotage. That glass of wine might make you feel sleepy.
But it's terrible for actual sleep quality. It dramatically shortens total sleep time and absolutely tanks the quality by cutting down REM and deep sleep. You see fewer delta waves on an EEG.
And lots of little awakenings you might not even remember.
Micro-awakenings, exactly. Very common. Your sleep architecture gets completely disrupted.
And is it true it gets harder to bounce back from this as you get older, like after 30?
It does seem to be the case. Part of it is likely due to declining NAD+ levels as we age, and our mitochondria just aren't as resilient. Plus, during sleep, after drinking, your heart rate stays elevated, and your heart rate variability, or HRV, plummets.
HRV being a measure of stress resilience.
Yeah, a low HRV during sleep indicates your body is under significant physiological stress, not recovering.
Okay, one last area of damage before we talk solutions. The gut microbiome. How does alcohol impact that?
It's pretty harsh on the gut. It directly damages the lining of your stomach and intestines.
Leading to leaky gut.
That's the term often used, yeah. Increased intestinal permeability. Basically, it allows stuff that should stay in your gut to leak out into your bloodstream.
Like undigested food particles, bacterial toxins.
Exactly, and this constantly triggers your immune system, keeping it on high alert and eventually exhausting it. Long term, this can contribute to SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or even fungal overgrowth like candida.
Which just creates more health problems, messes with sugar regulation.
It becomes a vicious cycle, yeah. Poor gut health impacts everything.
All right, so we've painted a pretty clear picture of the consequences. Let's pivot now. How do we mitigate this? Let's start with the hangover itself. What is it, fundamentally?
Right, the dreaded hangover. It's really a collection of symptoms: fatigue, headache, nausea, brain fog, anxiety,
Or work.
pretty much. And it's driven primarily by that acetaldehyde toxicity we talked about.
The 30x more damaging compound.
That's the main culprit, but also neurotransmitter imbalances bouncing back, your mitochondria not functioning well, inflammation, dehydration, and those congeners again.
The congeners. Especially methanol.
Yeah, methanol is a common congener, especially in poorly distilled spirits or darker drinks, and it metabolizes into formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde, like embalming fluid.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Extremely toxic. So drinks with more congeners, think whiskey, brandy, red wine, generally tend to cause worse hangovers than cleaner spirits like vodka or gin.
That makes sense. And this raises a question for you, listening. Think about your own experiences. What stands out to you about how your body reacts? Does drink type make a difference? How much you drink is personal.
Very personal.
Is there like a scientifically determined amount that generally triggers a hangover, a threshold.
There have been studies looking at this. A rough guideline that emerged is around 1 gram of alcohol per kilogram of your body weight.
Okay, how does that translate to drinks?
Well, a standard drink has about 14 grams alcohol, so doing the math, an average-sized person might be able to tolerate roughly 5 standard drinks spread out over an evening before hitting that intense hangover zone.
But emphasis on rough guideline, right?
Absolutely. Huge emphasis. Individual factors make a massive difference here.
We'll talk about those variables. What makes one person fine after 5 drinks and another miserable after 2?
Genetics are huge. There are specific gene variations affecting those enzymes, alcohol dehydrogenase and acetaldehyde dehydrogenase.
Meaning some people clear the alcohol or the toxic acetaldehyde faster or slower.
Exactly. This influences everything from how quickly you feel the effects to whether you get that facial flushing reaction or increased blood pressure and how bad your hangover is.
And drink choice. We touched on that. Pure spirits are generally better.
Generally, yes. Vodka, gin, high-quality tequila tend to have fewer congeners than aged spirits like whiskey or bourbon, or fermented drinks like wine and beer.
Wine and beer have other issues too, like sulfites.
Sulfites in wine can be problematic for some, and beer contains compounds like gliadin peptides, even in gluten-free beer, which some research suggests can increase gut permeability on their own, so dark liquors often give you that worst of both worlds, high alcohol and high congeners.
Okay, this is super intriguing.
Yeah.
Are there actually alternatives out there that can give you a similar buzz or social lubrication without the ethanol and all its downsides?
Yeah, this is a fascinating area of research. One compound getting attention is 1-butylene-butanediol.
1-phenol-3-butanediol.
Sounds industrial. It does, but it was actually studied by NASA. The interesting thing is it provides some similar effects to ethanol, that sort of relaxed feeling, but your body metabolizes it differently.
How so?
It breaks down into beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is actually a ketone body, something your body produces during fasting or on a keto diet.
So no acetaldehyde.
No acetaldehyde, which means, theoretically, no hangover from that pathway. Plus, beta-hydroxybutyrate itself might have benefits like reducing blood glucose and appetite.
Wow, that sounds almost too good to be true. Is it widely available?
It's starting to appear in some functional beverages, but still relatively new on the consumer market.
Okay, what else?
There's also kava. It's a traditional root drink from Polynesia.
Kava, right. I've heard of it for anxiety relief.
Exactly. It provides similar relaxing and social effects for many people, but again, without involving ethanol. But there's a really important warning with kava. If the root isn't prepared correctly, certain parts can contain toxins that are genuinely harmful to the liver. So if you ever consider kava, sourcing is absolutely critical. You need a reputable supplier who guarantees proper preparation and testing.
Good to know. Crucial caveat there. Okay, besides genetics and drink choice, what other little things affect how drunk we feel?
Oh, lots of things. Gender plays a role. Women often feel stronger effects for longer due to differences in hormones like estrogen, body fat percentage, water content, and those enzyme levels.
Okay.
Your mood matters. Alcohol tends to amplify whatever state you're already in. Tolerance is a big one, but remember, tolerance is just your body getting efficient at dealing with the toxin. It doesn't mean it's healthy.
Right, it's not protective.
Not at all. Then obviously how much you drink and how fast. Body composition, more muscle mass relative to fat, usually means slower intoxication. Altitude is a weird one. Until you acclimatize, a drink can feel almost twice as strong.
Wow.
And even carbonated mixers. The bubbles can increase pressure in your digestive system and speed up alcohol absorption slightly.
Huh. Little things add up. All right, let's build our strategic shield. How do we actively protect ourselves? You mentioned this moderate paradox earlier.
Right. The observation that some studies show moderate drinkers seem to have lower rates of cardiovascular disease than people who abstain completely.
Yep.
But correlation isn't causation. It's a really important distinction. There could be many other lifestyle factors confounded there. It's definitely not a reason to start drinking for heart health if you don't already. It just shows the picture is, well, complicated.
Okay, understood. So let's talk basics. The non-negotiables for anyone who chooses to drink.
Hydration. Absolutely number one. Don't start drinking if you're already dehydrated, which honestly many people are in daily life.
So drink water beforehand.
Yes, be well hydrated going in. And then during, a simple but effective trick is to have a glass of water for every alcoholic drink you have. Maybe add a tiny pinch of salt for electrolytes.
Unless you have high blood pressure.
Right, then maybe use trace mineral drops instead of salt. Also, eating antioxidant-rich food with your meal isn't going to prevent a hangover necessarily.
But it helps fight the long-term damage.
Exactly. It gives your body more resources to combat that oxidative stress we talked about. Every little bit helps buffer the damage.
Okay, what about things to definitely avoid mixing with alcohol, things that make the burden worse?
Big one. Paracetamol or acetaminophen. Tylenol.
Why is that?
Your liver uses glutathione to process both alcohol and acetaminophen. Doing both at once puts an immense strain on your liver and depletes glutathione much faster. It's a dangerous combo.
So no Tylenol for a hangover.
Definitely not ideal. Same goes for NSAIDs like ibuprofen or naproxen. They rely on similar liver pathways and can also irritate the stomach lining, which alcohol already does.
Are there safer alternatives for pain if needed?
Natural anti-inflammatories like turmeric or serapeptase could be options to explore as they don't tax the liver in the same way. Another thing to avoid is caffeine.
Really? People mix alcohol and caffeine all the time. Vodka Red Bull, Irish coffee.
Yeah, but caffeine acts as a diuretic by inhibiting your antidiuretic hormone. It makes you pee more, worsening dehydration.
Ah, better off with water or maybe green tea beforehand?
Green tea could be a good choice before drinking, yeah. And the final big avoidance, sugar.
For mixers, cocktails.
Exactly. Sugary drinks mask the taste of alcohol, making you drink more or faster. Plus, the sugar itself adds calories, spikes insulin, slows down the liver's ability to process the alcohol, and promotes fat storage. Always opt for sugar-free mixers if you can. Soda water, diet tonic, etc.
Makes sense. Okay, let's level up. The advanced playbook. What can people do before they even start drinking to really prep their system?
Okay, so on the day you know you'll be drinking, try to get some choline in your diet.
Choline. From where?
Eggs are a great source, liver if you eat it, or you can supplement with something like alpha-GPC, which is a very absorbable form. Choline is crucial for liver detoxification processes.
Okay, choline boost. What else?
Exercise. Doing some exercise, even just short, intense bursts, micro-workouts the day before drinking, has been shown to offer some protection against alcohol-induced liver stress and boosts your body's own antioxidant defenses.
Interesting. Preemptive exercise. Now, what about supplements? Taking specific things right before you drink. Can that actually help?
So you can't magically speed up your liver's fixed processing rate, let's be clear on that.
Right. The 60-90 minutes per drink is pretty set.
Exactly. But what you can do is provide your body with the raw materials, the cofactors it needs to run that process efficiently and to mitigate the collateral damage, especially if your natural stores of things like glutathione are maybe a bit low.
Okay, so what are the key players here?
Milk thistle, or silymarin, is a classic. It helps protect liver cells. It activates a protective pathway called NRF2, which is like your body's internal defense switch, and it helps preserve your glutathione.
Okay, milk thistle.
Schizandra is another herb that works similarly, helping reduce liver damage and keep glutathione levels up. B vitamins are crucial too.
Why B vitamins specifically?
Alcohol really messes with the absorption of water-soluble vitamins, especially Bs, so you're at higher risk of deficiency. Supplementing particularly with active forms of B9, folate, and B12 is a good idea, especially important if you're vegan, as B12 is harder to get.
Got it. B vitamins.
Zinc is important for your immune system, which takes a hit, and it's a cofactor for that enzyme, acetaldehyde dehydrogenase, the one that clears the really nasty stuff. Vitamin C is just a great all-around antioxidant.
And you hear a lot about NAC these days, N-acetylcysteine.
NAC is a powerhouse here. It directly helps reduce the damage from acetaldehyde, and it's a direct precursor to glutathione. Your body uses it to make more. It's so effective they use it in hospitals for Tylenol overdoses to protect the liver.
Wow. Okay. Anything else in the pre-drink arsenal?
One more I'd mention is chlorella.
The algae.
Yeah, the green algae. It helps boost glutathione, reduces acetaldehyde, but here's the really interesting part. Some studies suggest chlorella can actually bind to ethanol in your gut, reducing the amount that even gets absorbed into your bloodstream.
So it intercepts it before it hits the liver?
Potentially, yes. And unlike activated charcoal, which can also bind ethanol, chlorella doesn't seem to have the same negative effect of binding up essential nutrients along with it.
That's fascinating. Do we have rough dosages for these from the sources?
Yeah, the sources suggested ranges like glutathione, maybe 250, 500 milligrams, silymarin around 200 milligrams, schizandra 250, 400 milligrams, zinc 15, 25 milligrams, vitamin C, maybe 1,000 milligrams. For chlorella, the studies often use higher amounts, like around 40 tablets, usually taken an hour or two before drinking. Obviously, these are just guidelines from the research.
Right. Always good to check specifics. Okay, but what if you didn't do any prep? You're already a few drinks in, maybe feeling it, and now you're thinking, uh-oh, anything you could do after the fact?
Cut. Damage control mode. There are a couple of things. DHM, or diethyl is an extract often used traditionally in Asia for hangovers. It's thought to help protect against those reactive oxygen species.
DH,
Chlorella might still offer some benefit even after drinking by continuing to bind any remaining ethanol in the gut, though it's likely less effective than taking it beforehand.
and activated charcoal.
Activated charcoal can absorb ethanol still in the gut, maybe around 500 milligram could help. But again, remember the caution.
Mm.
It binds indiscriminately, so it might grab nutrients you need too. Chlorella might be preferable if you have it.
Okay. And right before finally crashing into bed, anything to help mitigate the terrible sleep.
Well, remember, alcohol suppresses your own melatonin production.
Right, messing up sleep signals.
And it also suppresses the natural nighttime release of testosterone and growth hormone, which happens during deep sleep. So, taking a small dose of melatonin can help offset the alcohol suppression and improve sleep quality somewhat.
But timing is key.
Absolutely critical. Only take it close to your normal bedtime. Taking melatonin at like 5 a.m. when you stumble home is just going to mess up your body clock even more the next day.
Good point. Don't fight your natural rhythm more than necessary.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot. So bring it all together. What does this really mean for you, the listener? I think this deep dive really shows there are options, right? Alternatives, ways to be smarter about it.
Totally. There are emerging alternatives that bypass ethanol, and there are many, many science-backed strategies you can use to buffer the negative effects if you do choose to drink.
So the goal isn't necessarily telling everyone to stop drinking.
Not at all. It's about shifting from, just passively accepting the consequences to actively understanding what's happening and making informed, conscious choices.
Knowledge is power, basically. Understanding the mechanisms, the real consequences, empowers you to decide how you want to engage with alcohol.
Exactly. And think about it. How does applying even just a few of these insights change things? It moves you from just sort of letting alcohol happen to you to actively managing its impact.
Allowing you to still enjoy social aspects or whatever reason you choose to drink, but maybe without paying such a high biological price.
Precisely. It's about enjoying your life and your choices, but doing it in a way that minimizes the undue toll on your health, your energy, your longevity. It's about mindful consumption, really.